Deepak. Now let's go to Vijay in Singapore. Welcome, Vijay.
Thank you very much, Jürgen, Minister Balala, and other friends on the call and dear colleagues. Thank you very much, Jürgen, for arranging this and giving me this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about aviation. It follows up right up what Talib's initiative and proposal. I think we all know that COVID-19 has really clipped the wings of the air transport sector, except for some cargo and a few domestic flights. But the reality out there is that with practically no flown revenues, but with massive debts and onerous commitments for aircraft and engine purchases, huge monthly lease payments for aircraft and engines, significant labor and other recurrent costs, even the most well-run and financially healthy airlines cannot survive without external support. Now, clearly, the less well-run and financially frail airlines need even more external support to survive. And clearly, the poorly run and financially challenged airlines, which were already destined to fail before COVID-19, need much more than external support if they have any chance to escape their expected fate. Clearly also, the longer COVID-19 chokes the world, the worse it will get for airlines. Now, IATA estimates the global airlines losses from COVID-19 to be $314 billion US. Governments so far have devoted more than $85 billion US to support various airlines.
Collectively all over the world?
All over the world.
Yes.
But it will be more and more difficult for them to secure the required external support with economies stalled and government finance under unbearable stress. With millions of bereaved families, millions of bankruptcies, the destructive recession, millions of job losses, severe drops in household incomes, the ongoing health concerns, travel restrictions, lockdowns, the new COVID-19 related pre-boarding screening and on-board seating restrictions of passengers, the ailing air transport and cruise sectors, the unpredictable nature of COVID-19, the psychological impact of all of these, and the consequential undermined confidence in the safety of air travel, it is clear for me that the airline industry will suffer for much longer. Earlier this week, the Airbus CEO mentioned 5 years as a time for the airlines to recover. The Boeing CEO talked about 2 to 3 years. Moreover, IATA claims that airfares would need to go up between 33% and 58% if in-flight social distancing measures are imposed. These are the reasons which lead me to believe that there cannot be a tourism revival anytime soon. And since the airline and tourism industries are interdependent, this will only compound the extraordinary challenges of the airline industry, which in turn will compound those of tourism. Certainly, the tourism we knew will be difficult to get back to. Hence the need to think outside the box, refocus on what Talib mentioned on the call last week on national tourism and creative new ideas to actually find ways to get the tourism sector to at least get a kickstart somehow. But the airline industry also suffers from a different challenge, which will get even worse. To me, it's the environmental challenge, because the world going through COVID-19 would actually bear a stronger scrutiny on the need to protect the environment, which is something which the tourism sector is also very keen on. Clearly, the aviation industry needs to up its game when it comes to reducing its environmental impact on the environment. And it could be that the crisis and the consequential impact it has on governments may cause the airlines to actually sharpen their edge there. If you recall, but a couple of years ago, ICAO adopted a carbon offsetting program for airlines, which actually kicks in from next year. But quite interestingly, at the time it was devised, the baseline to be used for calculating the offset, which airlines will need to purchase, was based on the actual CO2 emissions on 2019 and 2020. Now, clearly, the CO2 emissions in 2020 are going to be significantly low and will therefore cause the airlines to actually purchase much more offsets going forward as from 2021. The other, I suppose, side effect, probably positive in that sense, is when governments are offering financial aid to airlines, they're under increasing pressure to tie those support to some level of environmental impact reduction. The French government, for example, offered Air France $7.6 billion on condition that the airline map out a path to profitability and set the goal of becoming the most environmentally friendly carrier in the world. And they actually put benchmarks in terms of fuel efficiency, in terms of CO2 emissions, and actually will focus on reducing the number of domestic flights to do that, because the threshold is going to be lower when it comes to domestic flights. And of course, as France is also an investor in Airbus, it's no surprise that they are also encouraging Air France to use some of that money to invest in new environmentally friendlier aircraft. So I think all this said, I think it's clear that the airlines are going through the most difficult journey they've ever gone through. Now, obviously, that puts national airlines in my mind in a very unique position, because obviously many governments would not like to see their national airlines disappear. But it's also evident that most of the shareholders, especially governments, are unable to invest in these airlines if they were already in intensive care before COVID-19 and did not make the necessary changes to survive. Now, these airlines are obviously on a predictable path of liquidation and bankruptcy. Now, I still believe that there's room for saving national airlines, but it probably requires a total shift in the way we have thought of airlines. And perhaps you who are in the tourism industry, this may resonate even better with you when I say that the value of the airlines, which actually have made very little money in its history, has always been in terms of its help in allowing others to actually survive and thrive. So it's that multiplier effect on the economy, which has been perhaps the best part of the airline industry's contribution to the world. And we probably need, therefore, airlines, if governments were to invest in them, to redefine their focus away from the narrow shareholders focus to a more national stakeholders focus, and develop a national consensus on the new fundamental purpose of a national airline. Now, for me, the fundamental purpose of a national airline should be to serve the national interest and contribute to national socio-economic development by providing strategic air links safely, smartly, efficiently, sustainably, and cost-effectively in this fast mutating world. Now, to do that, all of these national airlines will have to be fully and holistically recalibrated to fit the severely limited demand. But the stakeholders must accept that these national airlines will then be on a diminishing loss-making course for some time, but that these losses will be progressively offset by its multiplier effect on the national economy. The shareholders, for their part, must accept that the profits which the national airline will eventually make will be fully reinvested in the national airline, to allow it to contribute even more to the nation's socio-economic development. Now, to conclude, that I believe that a country which embraces such a new national airline paradigm will give its recalibrated national airline a fighting chance to survive and enable the country and its tourism sector to also take off. But one final note I'd like to leave you with is my belief that for any of this to happen, all the stakeholders of travel and tourism must convince the world at large that we bring value even to those who are not involved in travel and tourism. Because we have a multiplier contribution to national and global socio-economic growth, and we enable governments to have the resources to support every member of the community. Thank you.
Well, that was a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much, Vijay. And I open it up for questions. So if there are any questions, or for Vijay, or also Taleb, or anyone else who wants to contribute something, not even a question, we have 12 minutes left, and would welcome this. We have Vincent. I know he's our airline man in Uganda. Go ahead, Vincent.
Thank you so much. I'm not an airline man. I'm more into but I think we're in a catch-22 position. If you said that we have to promote national airlines, wouldn't we rather be looking at regional airlines so that we can benefit from economies of scale? If every nation, say in East Africa, here we have Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, if every one of us decided to have a national airline, wouldn't we again be destroying the same environment you talked about that we need to be friendly to, we need to protect? Wouldn't we rather say, why don't we work together, see which airline can we save in the region, which one, where under which airline can we fly? Maybe we have management contracts, but pool all resources together so that we don't copy. If every nation had an airline here in East Africa, we would be having 6 airlines as opposed to 1. So I think for me, I would go for more of regional as opposed to national, the promotion of national airlines. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vincent. That's a very good point. See, when we talk about the need for, if you're looking at the whole strategy and fundamental purpose of a national airline, it obviously, and that's a challenge nationally for countries to get that part right. And it obviously makes sense when you look at the dynamics of the regional economy, that regional economy is best served by a regional airline. Then it's really up to the regional leaders to get together and do that same exercise of fundamental purpose and agree that we then need to actually all invest in one national airline, which will serve the interests, the regional interests, which by itself is a challenge, but not an insurmountable challenge. But the leaders must get together and say, well, this is what we want, because nationally we cannot actually deliver through a national airline, even our own interests. So, but by actually consolidating our needs at the regional or sub-regional level, we can work together. But first and foremost, the political will must be expressed in a new consensus on the fundamental purpose of that regional airline.
Thank you. Just wanted to remind everyone, this session is recorded, so you're going to be on tape, and we're going to make this recording available on rebuilding.travel on the website, and maybe some of it we will also use for upcoming articles. But it's not only that we want the recording on it, we want to really start an ongoing discussion. Last meeting was about introduction. This meeting is about the first step of starting this discussion. So we have it with Taleb's project of a safe zone for coronavirus destinations, and we have it with the very important subject of in the aviation of this problem and many other problems that are coming on. There's Muna Haddad. Muna, your microphone is unmuted. You're on. Let us know where you're from and what your question is.
Hi, this is Muna from Jordan. It's great to see so many colleagues here. Thank you for the incredible presentations, for everybody, and for putting this together as well. As we look into the future, the relationship with governments becomes very important, and looking at how much governments invest in tourism recovery is critical. I think there's an incredible opportunity for us to, throughout, I think, the sector, we all talk about how governments don't necessarily see the economic impact of tourism properly. And here's an opportunity presented in front of us where the world stopped traveling to actually collect data and present some information on the economic impact of the loss of travel, which really gives us all collectively a stronger footing. So I'd like to put this out there as a suggestion, or to hear more from everybody on what is being done in these terms. Are we putting together data collecting information that gives us a strong footing, strong foundation to have proper economic conversations with our governments to say, this is the economic impact of tourism and why you should invest this much in the recovery?
I think it's a very good suggestion. If Taleb or anyone else wants to say something, yes.
Yes, I also believe, like Vijay said, that there is an opportunity that comes out of every crisis. And this is probably one of the opportunities that we have. Now, in the future, people would start looking at tourism and travel in a different way because they're hurt. Now, let's admit this. Travel and tourism is not taken very seriously nowadays. And I think, Mona, that's exactly what you mean. And I can bring so many examples of this, but these are opportunities for us to reposition our sector, our human activity, I call travel and tourism, again on the map. Now, governments have to be responsible for this mainly, because governments are the first receivers of this issue. If governments believe that tourism is important, if they take it seriously, then people would follow. This is my belief. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have the Honorable Minister Balala from Nairobi with a comment or question.
Yes, Waziri.
Thank you, Jürgen, for organizing this, and African Tourism Board Chairman. Thank you very much. Dr. Rifai, I always admire your visionary position that you play in the tourism sector. And you know my position or my opinion on when I grow up, I want to become like Dr. Talib Rifai. So Dr. Talib Rifai, thank you very much. Vijay is a good friend of mine for a long time. Thank you very much. I want to make a small statement that direct the issue to the questions or to the subject. First of all, I want to say that it's true. Government do not take tourism seriously. I think during this pandemic crisis, this is the time you could see the gap tourism has played. We've always been blamed in the conservation sector that tourism is destroying the ecosystem in conservation. But now with the absence of conservation, tourism is financing conservation over 80%. So now it is the time even the conservationists have realized tourism is a major contributor to its sustainability. Government as well. They think tourism is about foreigners coming in and taking pictures and taking a sandbath on a beach. This is the impression of government. But I can tell you now, with the lockdown and with lack of tourism, government have realized the agricultural sector has majorly been affected. The manufacturing sector has been affected. The financial sector has been affected. All services enable the tourism sector, which is invisible, has been affected. And in Kenya, tourism is 10% of the GDP. Now the government has realized tourism is 24% of the GDP. That's how important tourism has become now. But again, they don't realize what to invest in. They can invest in agriculture, incentive and stimulus projects. They can invest in the manufacturing and trade protocols and stimulus projects. But they don't see tourism as where do they invest into. Because also tourism actually employs the lower cadre of society and population. So that is the challenge. We need to come very clearly, particularly the African Tourism Board and the World Tourism Organization, that tourism is beyond just a GDP. Tourism is a life. Tourism is peace and security and civilization. This is tourism. I think we need to change tourism from the image of holiday making and spending of money, rather of tourism changes people's life when they get employed. So that's my statement, colleagues. The second issue I thought Talib has brought in is how do we make the corona safe zones? And I have no worry about using corona. We can use corona negatively, we can use corona positively. Because everybody has realized corona has affected their lives. So we should recognize that name, corona safe zones, and then sanitize those areas. My problem is that who will do the sanitization, who will do the certification, all those programs, probably Talib, you should advise us. We might be another talk shop meeting here without somebody going to implement. I know the crisis has brought opportunities. If I am in the private sector, I will jump in the whole mode of certification. I will jump into the business of sanitizing the planes and sanitizing the destinations. That will be the new business. And this is an opportunity. So who will do that? Probably among us, we need to share to our private sector so they can be able to join into this business. The second issue is to my friend Vijay. Thank you very much, Vijay. Very informative. I want you to share with me and all of us probably that presentation. But we need to know the vision of IATA. You need to know the impact IATA has on all of us. Because 5 years, my God, where would we be? How would we survive in 5 years' time? That is a nightmare to all of us because it is jobs, it is livelihood. So how do we survive? And you know, in countries, in the first world, in countries where infrastructure and the social structures are well entrenched and supportive, but in countries in Asia, in Africa, where there's no social structure, how do we survive? So that is an impact. I mean, if we are going to increase the airfares to 30 to 40% hike in fares, who will travel? Who will travel? That's my question. And then everybody will travel by road. At least in Europe, we have a very big and a strong, and America also, strong infrastructure network. In the other parts of the world, it's not there. In Africa, it's not. That's why we in Africa have failed to attract even intra-Africa tourism. My agenda for the African Union was we should invest into infrastructure and connectivity now. So in 5 years' time, it will be ready. So it's not about just tourism being promoted, it's about investment in the infrastructure and connectivity now. It will create jobs, it will open for tourism, but it will bring the produce and products from the market to the, from the farms to the markets and to the export destinations. That is my thinking of how to build networks and infrastructure. But it is really shocking to say that if the aviation sector is not going to recover soon, then we should forget about tourism because we rely on tourism. In Africa, we rely on foreign tourism. We don't rely on domestic tourism because our spending power is small. And we have seen, I've worked with MasterCard International. The spending power of my domestic market is less than half the spending power of international clientele. And then for me, I need the foreign currency. I cannot replace international clientele to domestic market. I cannot replace it. So I'm lucky in Kenya because we have a strong domestic tourism. So we might do better for the next 6 months. But if you tell me, Vijay, I have to sustain myself for 5 years, it's a nightmare for my government. I rest my case and I hope I have shared with you and can learn from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Najib.
Just quickly respond to Muna's comment and also to Najib's comment. First, to reassure Najib that when the Boeing CEO was talking about a 5-year for recovery, he was talking about how long it will take the airlines to go back to the peak of 2019. Right? That will take. Airbus says 3 years. Airbus says 5 years. Boeing says 2 to 3 years. But obviously, airlines will start taking off much sooner, but until how long it will take for them to actually reach that peak they were at in 2019 will depend on the different other factors, some of which I mentioned. So connectivity will start earlier, but the level of connectivity will probably increase over time and not reach that 2019 level in a year or two. It will probably take longer. But the point about Muna, I wanted to reflect on, because you know, it's human nature. We really only appreciate things or even people until we've lost them, and then we realize how fortunate we were, but then we missed that chance. And aviation had an opportunity in 2010. If you remember the Icelandic volcanic ash.
That's right.
And that basically, especially in Europe, basically closed all airports and so on. And it cost the global GDP $5 billion. And that element was used by the airline sector to build up its credentials with governments and stakeholders over the years. So I think we have an opportunity now, seeing that the travel and tourism have actually been grinded to a halt, and the impact is visible, to actually use that data to share the importance. But the point I want to highlight is, as we show that importance, best not to show the importance of airlines and hotels, because people know they've been impacted, but actually show how the common of mortals, individuals in villages and places have been impacted, because they have been unable to actually benefit from the down the line benefits of travel and tourism. If we're able to build that case and also show that governments have been missing out on the financial contribution of the travel and tourism sector, therefore being less able to help communities. If we're able to actually focus on communities being impacted as opposed to industries being impacted, we probably have a better chance to build up better goodwill and win the hearts and minds of people on the importance of travel and tourism as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vijay. It's quite an interesting discussion here, and I think everyone's still here. We haven't lost anyone, so I know everyone is enjoying it. And yes, Minister Balala, it's definitely not my goal to just have another discussion with no outcome. So we were trying to find a way, and we need everyone's help, because this is not like an entertainment platform. We can also provide an entertainment platform. You can read Ethiopia News. We don't expect you to always comment, but really this should be an interactive platform that can actually provide results. So if Vijay's comment would result in other consultants or in Vijay as a consultant to go out and actually advise companies or airlines with his idea, we like to help to facilitate this. If this project with corona-free zones would have any interest in other parts of the world, like in Micronesia or in Uganda or anywhere else, we'd like to help with this and actually help to advise you and set it up. And this is kind of the network I'm looking at. We're not quite there yet. We only started 10 days ago, but 95 countries are online, so I'm optimistic we can do this. We don't have any money. We didn't charge anyone a dime. So we're doing this all on our own time, but any help you guys can give with input, ideas, just go to the website rebuilding.travel and click on contact, and we'd be happy to start this conversation. I received emails for your information on a daily basis, many of them who wanted to be part of this discussion, have great ideas and are involved in fantastic projects. So as we go along, we'd like to introduce it, but what we don't want is just to introduce it and then leave it. So at least this is our goal. We're not there yet. We are now literally 6 minutes over time. Deepak had one more question. So if there's anyone else after Deepak, maybe we can take one more and then we call it a morning or a night. And so for Deepak, go ahead. I think I have to unmute you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Organ. My question is to Vijay and to Dr. Rifai. As you know, to recover our tourism, the airlines will have the most significant role. But most of the aviation experts, they are saying that, after Corona, the traveling costs, air costs will be very, very high. So in that line, how government or how airlines take some measures to minimize the air ticket costs so that we can recover fast. If there are any tips to the government, to the airlines, so I would like to know from two experts.
Want to start, Vijay?
No, I think that the starting point must be if when governments are going to give financial support to any airline, it should not condition it. Like, for example, you saw what France did. When France gave its support to Air France, it conditioned it on France going on a path to profitability. Now, if that path is there, then of course the airlines are going to focus on making as much money as they can, as fast as they can. But what governments must understand is that there is going to be implications for the wider economy if the airline starts doing that. If they only focus on profitability, and that's why they increase the fares by 35, 40, 50, 60%. Any opportunity an airline has to increase prices and still have a market, they will do it. But if the government were to say to airlines they are helping is that we give you support, but in return, you must seek approval for your fare increases so that we see if it's justified and what the impact it will have on the wider economy, including the tourism sector. That would be a different paradigm. And I think this is where we need that. This is the time to have that conversation with governments, not when things are back on track. This is the time governments, airlines are knocking on the doors of governments and will take money with any condition attached. And that's the time to try to get government to think about the conditions which can help the tourism sector take off, as opposed to keep the tourism sector in trouble for longer. Thank you.
Thank you. May I say something very quickly, Jürgen?
Sure.
Yes, okay. There are 2 points here. Number one is I always had some sensitivity towards national airlines. National airlines have been protected so long by governments, to the extent sometimes that they have been seeing the benefits of the company more important than the benefit of the country. So we have to be careful about this. It's a lesson we must learn from it. But my second point is the following. I think we're really looking now at two different types of airlines. Sorry to say this, Vijay. I think low-cost airlines will have a rise in this. They will have to now prove themselves a bit more competitive than the others. On the other line, we are going to see some private jets probably more active than before, because businesses, people that have money, do not have to take any more the regular airlines. So I'm afraid that what I'm suspecting is that the regular airlines in the middle here, between low cost and private jets, will have to find a very hard way of surviving now.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, if there's no more questions, I think we're coming to an end. Thank you so much for everyone attending. Thank you, Minister Balala, Taleb, Vijay, Deepak, Vincent, Mona, for participating. It's an interactive, world interactive subject. We're going to have another conversation probably in a week, and then 12-hour difference, so we can allow our friends here in North America and South America to have easier access time. I think everyone in Africa and Europe will be fine. And please stay in touch. We want to make this work for everyone. We want everyone to benefit. We're all in this together. And aloha from Hawaii. Good morning. Namaste. And I don't know what it means in Kiswahili in Kenya, but
well,
and thank you so much.
What is it, Waziri? Waziri, what is it? How do you say Sabah al-Khair in Kenyan, in Swahili?
Yeah, you have to unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah, we have to unmute. Okay. Okay, yes, there we go.
Say Jumbo, because the common denominator of
Jumbo.
Jumbo, yes.
Jumbo is excellent. Okay. Thank you so much. And Jumbo Waziri.
Okay.
Jumbo.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.